business in, according to the government's ease of doing business rankings. In fact, CNBC TV18's Parikshit Luthra spoke to Junaid Ahmed, the country director at the World Bank. Let's listen into that conversation.
The Department of Industrial Policy Promotion and the World Bank have just released state rankings as far as the ease of doing business in India are concerned. Andhra, Telangana, topping the list. With us right now is Mr. Junaid Ahmed, the country director of the World Bank. Mr. Ahmed, thank you very much for speaking to CNBC TV18. This survey is based on large-scale private sector feedback. What makes this survey different from last year, and what message really goes out to the corporate sector and the global community interested in investing in India?
I think the big difference is this is a survey that's incorporating user feedback. So it's not only about measuring that reforms have been taken forward or policy changes have happened, but what impact has it had on the ground. So this time about 50,000 firms have been interviewed, and a sample has been taken, a statistically a significant sample, to show that those reforms that are being changed at the top are actually having an impact on the ground, and that's the critical difference.
Okay. As far as the reform process is concerned, we mentioned the top 10 states. Where do you think states are lagging as far as implementation is concerned?
I think it depends which state you're in and what the story is. Some places, the issue of registration in land, for example, is being done very well. Our construction permits are being given out very quickly. Others have been creating a one-stop shop and done very well. So I think it depends where you are. But one of the powerful impact of such an assessment or such a competition is each state can then look at the results and see where they're lagging and where they can improve. But overall, I think that the linkage between policy reform and implementation, making that linkage confirmed, is probably one of the big contributions of this year's survey.
GST and demonetization have been talked about a lot. What is the kind of feedback you got about GST, about the problems that traders, the small traders, the big businessmen have been facing, and generally how have these two reform processes gone down with the private sector?
Well, I think anytime there's a shift or change in a major way, and both demonetization and GST were big shifts, it sends a shock into the system. But I think we're well past that. As you can see, overall, the national growth has picked up and is touching the 7% barrier and moving beyond that. And we're beginning to see in this survey also that the reflection is about the impact of reforms on the ground. So I think the two shocks you talked about, or the two changes you talked about, is definitely in the past.
Okay. And as far as the global community is concerned, we're looking at a global trade war, trade disputes globally because of what President Donald Trump is doing. How should the global community see these rankings today, sir?
I think the global communities are going to be very fascinated by these rankings, because what these rankings are saying, India is not only open for business, it's in the business of taking private sector forward. A decade ago, you would not have had these kind of competitive federalism. Today's competitive federalism is signaling that India is well on its way towards creating a more competitive economy. And I think that's extremely important for attracting foreign investment, but it's also very important in continuing the growth of India, which has very positive impact globally.
And finally, you've been saying that there is a lot of interest. You're getting calls from a lot of colleagues of yours globally. What is the main question that everybody asks you?
I think that the question that is being asked is, how is this ease of doing business managed by government? What are the processes they're engaging in? I think India's movement of 30 ranks last year globally, and India's consistent improvements in subnational is attracting attention. So countries like Indonesia, South Africa, and even China are asking us questions. What is it that government is doing that's allowing this positive momentum to happen?
All right. Thank you very much for speaking to us. So that was Mr. Junaid Ahmed, country director of World Bank, saying this is great criteria. This is great information and data for companies wanting to invest in India, and it sends out a message that India is not just open for business, it's in the business. With Bureau Journalist Pradeep, this is Parikshit Luthra.